What is the main focus of the paper, based on the introduction section?
The main focus of the paper, based on the introduction section, is to investigate and define different versions of linear mode connectivity modulo permutation in neural networks trained with stochastic gradient descent, SGD. The paper aims to disambiguate between existing claims of linear connectivity by introducing the concepts of weak linear connectivity, WLC mod P, strong linear connectivity, SLC mod P, and simultaneous weak linear connectivity, simultaneous WLC mod P. The authors provide evidence for these different forms of linear connectivity by studying how networks can be aligned using permutations, particularly focusing on the ability to connect networks with low error barriers. Additionally, the paper explores the implications of linear connectivity for various applications such as federated learning, model fusion, and network sparsity. The ultimate goal is to understand the conditions under which neural networks can be linearly connected with low barriers, especially in the context of permutation symmetries and network stability to SGD noise.
Can you explain the concept of linear mode connectivity modulo permutation as described in the paper?
Linear mode connectivity modulo permutation, LC mod P, refers to the property where networks from a set can be permuted in a way that eliminates any barriers on the linear interpolation between any two permuted elements in the set. The paper distinguishes between weak linear connectivity modulo permutation, WLC mod P, and strong linear connectivity modulo permutation, SLC mod P. WLC mod P occurs when each pair of networks can potentially be aligned with a different permutation, while SLC mod P implies that there is a single permutation that can linearly connect all pairs of permuted networks in a given set. The concept of simultaneous weak linear connectivity modulo permutation, simultaneous WLC mod P, extends this idea by showing that a single permutation can linearly connect two sequences of networks obtained through different methods, such as SGD training trajectories or iterative magnitude pruning, IMP. The paper provides empirical evidence for simultaneous WLC mod P by demonstrating that applying weight or activation matching after training can significantly reduce the error barrier between independent networks at all times during training. Additionally, the paper shows that a single permutation aligning two networks after training can also align other networks from the same linearly connected modes, as well as transport IMP masks between networks. The evidence for strong linear connectivity modulo permutation is presented by indirectly aligning networks relative to a fixed reference network, showing that as network width increases, the loss barrier between networks decreases. The paper also discusses algorithmic aspects of network alignment, highlighting the importance of weight matching and activation matching algorithms in determining the success of linear mode connectivity modulo permutation.
What are the different claims of linear mode connectivity modulo permutation discussed in the paper?
The paper discusses three different claims of linear mode connectivity modulo permutation. The first claim is weak linear connectivity modulo permutation, WLC mod P, where each pair of networks can be aligned with a different permutation depending on the specific pair. The second claim is strong linear connectivity modulo permutation, SLC mod P, where there exists a permutation that can linearly connect all pairs of networks in a set. The third claim introduced in the paper is simultaneous weak linear connectivity modulo permutation, where a single permutation can linearly connect two sequences of networks, obtained via different methods, such as SGD training trajectories or iterative magnitude pruning, IMP. This claim highlights the possibility of finding a single permutation that aligns multiple networks along two sequences of iteratively transformed networks.
How does the paper distinguish between weak linear connectivity modulo permutation and strong linear connectivity modulo permutation?
The paper distinguishes between weak linear connectivity modulo permutation, WLC mod P, and strong linear connectivity modulo permutation, SLC mod P, based on the ability of a single permutation to align networks. WLC mod P occurs when each pair of networks can be aligned with potentially different permutations. On the other hand, SLC mod P implies that there exists a permutation that can linearly connect all pairs of networks in a given set. The distinction is made by observing the error barriers between networks when aligned indirectly through a reference network. In the case of SLC mod P, a single permutation should be able to align two networks directly with low error barriers. The paper provides evidence for SLC mod P by showing that as the width of networks increases, the loss barriers decrease when aligning networks indirectly, indicating the potential for strong connectivity. However, the results suggest that the current weight and activation matching algorithms may have limitations in fully achieving SLC mod P, as the error barriers are still higher compared to direct alignment.
What evidence does the paper provide for the existence of strong linear connectivity modulo permutation?
The paper provides evidence for the existence of strong linear connectivity modulo permutation by demonstrating that as the width of networks increases, the loss barrier between two independently trained networks decreases when aligned with a third, unrelated network. This indirect alignment method shows that the loss barrier reduces as network width increases, supporting the conjecture that strong connectivity is possible with sufficiently wide networks. The results indicate that a single permutation of each of the two networks would be adequate to make them linearly connected with both the third network and each other. However, the study notes that the indirect alignment still results in higher barriers compared to direct alignment, suggesting limitations of the weight or activation matching algorithms used. The findings support the idea that with significantly wider networks, strong linear connectivity modulo permutation can be achieved, although the current weight and activation matching algorithms may have constraints in discovering this connectivity in more general settings.
Explain the methods used in the paper to align neural networks via permutation.
The paper utilizes weight matching and activation matching algorithms to align neural networks via permutation. Weight matching involves calculating the L-squared distance between the weights of two networks and using the greedy-Soblap algorithm to minimize this distance. On the other hand, activation matching computes the L-squared distance between the intermediate outputs of the networks on training data. These algorithms aim to find a permutation that maximizes the similarity between two networks by minimizing the error barrier between them. The paper demonstrates that weight matching works as well as activation matching for wide networks at convergence. It also shows that weight matching depends on large magnitude weights and can align lower layers earlier in training. Additionally, the paper explores the ability of weight matching to align networks at different iterations during training and highlights that weight matching may fail for sparse networks or networks not trained to convergence. The methods used in the paper focus on finding permutations that eliminate error barriers between networks, ultimately aiming to achieve linear connectivity via permutation alignment.
How are weight matching and activation matching algorithms used in the paper for network alignment?
Weight matching and activation matching algorithms are used in the paper for network alignment by finding permutations that align networks to reduce error barriers. Weight matching measures the L-squared distance between networks' weights to align them, while activation matching measures the L-squared distance between intermediate outputs on training data. The paper shows that weight matching works well for wide networks at convergence, but fails for sparse networks and networks not trained to convergence. Activation matching typically outperforms weight matching, but neither heuristic is superior in all cases. Weight matching depends on large magnitude weights and can align lower layers earlier in training. The algorithms are applied after training to find a single permutation that essentially eliminates the error barrier between networks, indicating linear connectivity modulo permutation. The paper also discusses the limitations and potential weaknesses of weight matching and activation matching algorithms in discovering strong linear connectivity modulo permutation in more general settings.
What are the empirical findings regarding simultaneous, weak linear connectivity modulo permutation presented in the paper?
The empirical findings regarding simultaneous weak linear connectivity modulo permutation presented in the paper demonstrate that sequences of networks obtained through independent SGD training runs are essentially linearly connected throughout training. By applying weight or activation matching after training, the error barrier between independent SGD iterates is significantly reduced at all times during training. This reduction in error barrier implies that the networks remain essentially linearly connected modulo permutation throughout the training process. Additionally, the paper shows that a single permutation that linearly connects two SGD solutions after training can also connect other networks from the same linearly connected modes as each SGD solution. This is evidenced by computing a permutation from the end of two independent training runs and comparing loss barriers between networks obtained via an instability analysis procedure. Furthermore, the paper demonstrates that iteratively sparsified networks obtained through IMP are also simultaneously weak linearly connected modulo permutation. The findings show that a permutation aligning independent dense networks can also align sequences of sparse networks obtained from the same dense networks via IMP with lower error barriers than naively matching the sparse networks.
How are iteratively sparsified networks shown to be simultaneously weak linearly connected modulo permutation in the paper?
Iteratively sparsified networks are shown to be simultaneously weak linearly connected modulo permutation in the paper by demonstrating that a single permutation that linearly connects independent dense networks also linearly connects the sequences of sparse networks obtained from the same dense networks via iterative magnitude pruning, IMP. The paper presents empirical evidence that weight or activation matching applied after training significantly reduces the error barrier between independent SGD iterates at all times during training. This implies that the two networks remain essentially linearly connected modulo permutation throughout the training process. Additionally, the paper shows that the same permutation aligning two dense trained networks can also be used to align successive iterations of sparse subnetworks found via IMP. The results indicate that applying the permuted mask obtained from IMP on one network to another network at initialization allows the latter network to be trained to the same accuracy as the original dense network, showcasing simultaneous weak linear connectivity modulo permutation between iteratively sparsified networks.
Can you elaborate on how masks can be transported modulo permutation as discussed in the paper?
In the paper, it is demonstrated that masks obtained through an iterative magnitude pruning IMP procedure can be transported from one network to another via permutation. The process involves obtaining a sequence of sparsity masks by iteratively pruning the smallest weights of a dense network. These masks are then applied to a different network by rewinding the weights of the target network, pruning using the mask and retraining the pruned network to convergence. The key finding is that a single permutation that linearly connects two independently trained dense networks can also align the sparse networks obtained through IMP. This alignment preserves the matching accuracy of the original dense network. The results show that applying the IMP mask to the target network via permutation achieves matching accuracy for various sparsity levels, outperforming one-shot pruning methods. This indicates that networks within the same linearly connected mode modulo permutation exhibit similar winning ticket structures for a range of sparsity levels. The study suggests that the transported masks from the IMP procedure can be effectively applied to other independently trained models, showcasing the potential for leveraging permutation-based alignment for model compression and transfer learning tasks.